Hello, everybody. I'm giving you a couple of minutes for all of you to connect. Okay, I see most of the participants connected. So I'd say let's kick off the webinar. Welcome to today's webinar on collaborative environmental management. My name is Alexandra Kovrik, Senior Project Manager at Airport Regions Council, and I will moderate today's event. Before we jump right into it, I would like to give my thanks to our speakers from EUROCONTROL, European Regions Airline Association, ASLB-Airlines Belgium, and SOWAER, the Association of Wallonia Airports. Thank you for making this event possible. A few words about Airport Regions Council and why collaborative environmental management is important for us. Well, ARC is the Association of Regional and Local Authorities across Europe with an airport situated within or near their territories. It was founded in 1994 with the goal to improve the relation between public authorities and airports. It encourages them to work together towards increasing the quality of life of the inhabitants living in the vicinity of airports. But also it encourages them to work on topics such as sustainable growth, environmental challenges, and green transition. ARC is the legitimate voice of cities, regions, and local authorities that experience both benefits and impacts of the expanding and changing aviation industry. We have a diverse membership. Some of our members have on their territories the largest hubs in Europe, Frankfurt, Paris, Madrid, Vienna, while some have important regional airports, Oulu, Iași, Malta. We welcome EUROCONTROL CEM since it is a procedure that harmonizes the interests of all stakeholders in the airport activities, including the local communities surrounding airports. To us, this is the first step in building a transparent communication because territorial public authorities are as well included in the decision-making process. We see CEM as a potential framework to elaborate or improve the relationships between these administrations and the airports. We believe CEM can provide a platform for collaboration between operational stakeholders, which could ultimately lead to significant reduction of the environmental impact. CEM implementation can lead to potential benefits such as sustainable environmental performance, reduced noise and emissions, development of climate adaptation plans, open dialogue, trust, and long-term engagement. Well, today, some of our members, including SOWAER, they already implemented this working arrangement at the airports, and they will share with us their experience with it. I would now suggest to move on and to start with getting to know more about CEM, right from its developers, EUROCONTROL. And in this sense, I would like to give the floor to Marilyn Baston, Head of Aviation Sustainability. Just one note before we go to the presentation, please know this webinar is being recorded. All presentations will be shared with all participants at the end of the event. Thank you very much. You have the floor, Marilyn.
Thank you, Alexandra. It's really a pleasure being here today, and I would like to thank you, Alexandra, and also ARC, for giving me this opportunity to present you what CEM, Collaborative Environmental Management, is. This presentation is not only a EUROCONTROL presentation, it will also be based on my personal experience when I was working for SKYS, the Belgium air navigation service provider, but I will come back to this later on. I have to. Okay, so, but first of all, I would like to give you the current context. I'm sure you are all aware of this, but I don't know why the slide have switched. Okay, because in last year, in 2020, we lost 6 million flights, meaning a lot of lost revenue that has been lost for airline, ANSPs, airport. And it's quite important to understand that when we are in a situation like we face today, every tiny step, every small changes that we can do, it's really important. And for that sense, I think that CEM, the Collaborative Environmental Management Platform, is really a nice to have option to optimize your operation. So if we look now to the traffic recovery in this period of time, it's not so optimistic. So meaning that the situation will still be difficult for a lot of us, for a lot of stakeholders, and it's why it's really important that we could implement this kind of solution that doesn't request a lot of money or a lot of resources, but that allows a lot of improvement on short term. So yes, I tried to change the slide, but okay, now that's fine. But how CEM could help? So back in 2013, when I was working for Skies, I was the head of environment, but I had a very tiny team, you know, only one person and not a lot of resources, meaning that it was a little like in this concept now, in which we don't have a lot of resources and a lot of revenue. But I had to find something to do in terms of environment, and I knew at that time that alone I would not be able to achieve anything. And I had the chance to attend a EUROCONTROL training at that time, and I discovered the concept of collaborative environmental management. And the concept is really about supporting and facilitating internal collaboration amongst the core stakeholders in order to minimize the environmental impact resulting from the operation at and around an airport. You have a link on the bottom of the slide that you can click on to have more information, and you will have a nice video and so on. But really the idea was, I have a solution. I will not be alone. I can work with my operational stakeholder, and together we can find solutions to minimize the impact of our operation. Now, why is it important to have a CEM working arrangement, and what is a CEM working arrangement? Depending on your airport, you will have different priorities. You can decide to work on noise, on fuel emission, on particulate matters, or you have maybe a problem of reputation, whatsoever. And you need to work together, but you need to communicate about this. And a CEM working arrangement is really about this. It's to formalize a collaboration between the airport, the airline, and the INSP to manage the environmental impact of the operation. So it's all about the formalization to get the buy-in of the top management, meaning that you will ensure the availability of resources to your CEM. Now, what are the benefits of a CEM working arrangement? It can allow to facilitate awareness and understanding of operational interdependency. And I will come back to this later when I will explain the case of Brussels Airport. It helps also to support coordinated action. When you have to do a change, sometimes it requires the involvement of different stakeholders to try to do it in a sustainable way. To facilitate compliance with regulation that deal with current and future environmental challenges. Of course, the regulations are changing all the time. Sometimes also you have new key performance indicator, and it's good to have a platform in which we can discuss how to be compliant, how to improve, how to do the monitoring, and so on. To facilitate robust and transparent local community dialogue and engagement with external stakeholders. What we mean by this? For instance, you need to implement a new flight procedure at your airport, and you know that you will have some impact. But you can also work on the mitigation of this new procedure to avoid to have impact or to try to reduce the impact of the changes. With this platform, you can show that it has been discussed with all the different stakeholders, that we have worked to try to find some solution, and you can easily communicate on this solution. And I will give you a concrete example later on during the presentation. The link at the bottom of the slide, it's a link to the specification that we have published on our website. And of course, we have different versions because the CEM specification have evolved over time, depending on the new priorities and the new findings regarding aviation sustainability. And we plan to work on a new update, including sustainable aviation fuel, for instance, or hydrogen. It means that this specification will evolve over time. Now, who are the core aviation stakeholders? Because we speak about the core aviation stakeholder. Alors, the core ones are mainly the air navigation service provider, meaning the air traffic controllers, the airports, meaning the fuel efficiency manager or the noise manager, or everyone who is working on sustainability at an airport is, of course, welcome to the CEM platform, and the airlines. And it's quite important because it means that you really need to have your operational stakeholder around the table if you really want to decrease the impact of your operation. It makes sense not only to have administrative people or high-level people, you need to have the people working at your airport. And so on having pilots and having air traffic controller at the same table, it's really a great benefit, and you can ensure that you will achieve concrete improvement at your airport. But of course, you can also invite other members, because it's quite important to say that the CEM can adapt to your specific needs, meaning that depending on the airport, you can have also the regulator or also other association. For instance, at Liège Airport, you will see that SOWAER is part of it. So it's not only the core operational stakeholder, but it's really up to you to decide who is involved into the discussion at your airport. Now, why a CEM at each airport? I think it's quite important, and ideally each airport should have its own CEM platform. Why? Because each airport is different. Each airport has its own business. You could be an airport working during the day or during the night. You could be a more cargo-oriented airport. You could be a small airport or a big airport. You could be close to a city or not. And depending on your business, the priorities that you have to solve might be different. And so for this, you really need this specific platform that will really tackle the priorities at your airport. Now, how to get started? Because in fact, it's quite easy. I think that I have repeated it several times during the first slide, but it's all about putting people around the table. And literally, it's exactly this. So it doesn't require a lot of resources or a lot of money. It's about formalizing on a paper and to identify, first of all, who do you want to have around the table? And then to decide the requirements. What is expected? What do you want to achieve with the CEM? What will be your top level priorities on which you would like to work on? And then to define the roles. You need a chair, for instance, for the meeting. At Brussels Airport, we decided to co-chair the meeting to share the administrative burden for the minutes of meeting, for instance. And in terms of time, usually you do a CEM meeting every 3 months, but you can decide every 4 months. It depends. It depends of what you want to achieve, but we are not speaking about having meeting every week. It's really about speaking to each other regularly, but it's really simple to put in place. Now, what could be on the CEM agenda? Again, it will depend on your priorities, but just on top of, on this slide, you will have a list of different subjects that are already discussed at different CEM platforms in Europe. So it could go from your ISO certification to some noise problem for the engine test runs, for instance, or you could work about airspace change design configuration, or about optimization of flight procedure. You have many different subjects that can be discussed, and it's really up to you to do the agenda according to your priorities. And now I would like to come back to my expertise at Skies when I was working there. And we have started our first CEM for Brussels Airport in June 2018. So how did we do this? So we just, first of all, organized a meeting with the airlines. So it was Brussels Airlines, TUI and DHL. with Brussels Airport and Sky's EUROCONTROL, because at that time Sky's was called EUROCONTROL. And we had a big meeting in June where we decided to work together to minimize our impact on our operation. And we have decided to make this collaboration official in September, and it's why we make a big press release in order to officialize the commitment that we decided to do all together. So as you can see on the picture there, maybe you don't recognize them, but the people that are on the picture are the CEO of Brussels Airport and the CEO of the different airlines and the CEO of Sky, Mr. Johan de Kuiper. So it's really the top level, the high executive of the different organizations. And it gives more strength into this collaboration, and it also shows the commitment of the different actors to work on the environmental impact of the operation. So now in the CEM working arrangement at Brussels Airport, we decided to look at the short and long-term challenges and to develop a shared environmental vision and strategy. We decided that we will develop key performance indicator and action plan to minimize our environmental impact. We worked also on de-icing operation, and we want to promote a better understanding of the business interdependency between airport and airlines and ASLB. And this is quite important because when we want to improve, we really need to better understand the different challenges and the constraints of the other stakeholders with whom we are working. We wanted also to support the sustainable growth of the airport, support also the ISO certification. And another aspect, which is really quite important, is to propose and validate via simulation or live trials and so on, new operational concept based on a win-win sharing of expertise and tools. And I will give you a concrete example about this. And finally, because CEM is also this, it's facilitate compliance to the European Single Sky Implementation Plan, the objective number 2, which is part of the ATM master plan. So there is also, when you organize the CEM, you are also compliant to an objective of the master plan. Now, this is concretely what an agenda of a CEM could look like. So it's a 3-hour meeting. And as you can see on the different topics that are discussed during these meetings, you have topics that are presented by the airlines, like the fuel efficiency initiative, but you have also topics that are presented by the ANSP, like bulb replacement, which is a beacon, and I will come back to this later, or the refurbishment of the runway 25 right. But you will also have some topics that are presented by Brussels Airport, like the single engine taxi operation, or finding a new location for the engine runs to try to reduce noise, or speaking about reverse thrust usage. So as you can see, the amount of subjects that are discussed during a CEM are quite broad. And also, it requires the involvement of everyone around the table. Now, just to give you a concrete example, it's about CDO, so continuous descent operation. Normally, when we speak about an optimized descent profile, we have a descent without any level off. I will not insist too much on this case, but just to have a look for you, on the left side of the slide, you have different performance for different airlines flying at Brussels Airport. And what we saw at that time, we saw that depending on the airline or on the aircraft type, the length of the last level of before landing was quite different. And we were working on this. We were discussing with all the different airlines to try to understand why some were performing better than the other. Because of course, if you are flying for 25 nautical miles at 2,000 feet, you are producing noise, but it's also bad from a fuel perspective. So it's really about trying to better understand each other, to try also to help them why a pilot is flying for 25 nautical miles at 2,000 feet. Maybe it's due to a clearance of the air traffic controller, and we needed to understand it to be able to change this, to adapt the way we work in such a way that we could see improvement. Now, I would like to give you a concrete example about a new procedure that has been published at Brussels Airport and on which CEM really helps to improve the impact of the operation. So just to give you the context, at Brussels Airport, we had to replace a beacon, which is used for some operational procedure that were already used for landing at Brussels Airport. So of course, when we had to replace this beacon, we had to publish alternate procedure that don't require this beacon. And so we had to publish a procedure which is called RNP procedure, which is supposed to be a precision approach procedure. What does it mean? It means that normally, and I insist on this, it should help the pilot to fly better optimize descent profile, meaning that normally we should have less level off, as I have just shown you before. But when we publish this procedure, it's not what we saw. So because on the left side of the slide, I will not enter into the details, don't worry, but you can see on the chart which is at the bottom left of the slide that we have some level off, meaning a flat line at 2,000 feet with a certain duration, approximately 12 nautical miles. And on the right side, normally, you should expect to not having this level off at 2,000 feet, but 3,000 feet. But, and is what you see a level off at 3,000 feet, so this flat line, but she is also very long. And it was not at all expected because, as I told you, if we publish an RNP procedure, which is based on performance-based navigation, it's supposed to be more accurate and it's supposed to help the pilot. So what did we do during the CEM meeting? We discussed all together to try to understand why we had this poor result in terms of noise, because of course it's not good on noise when you are flying at 3,000 feet for 25 nautical miles, and also because it's bad from a fuel efficiency perspective. So we discussed this and we had to do training on both sides, for pilots, but also for air traffic controller. And then we publish again the procedure and we see a big improvement between the first time before the CEM meeting and then after the CEM meeting when some training have been organized to help the pilot and the air traffic controller to understand. And as you can see now on the right side of the slide, there is no level off at all at 2,000 feet. It's only at 3,000 feet. And the number of level off at this level are less important and the duration is also shorter. So it's just to show you a concrete example about what we can achieve, and it was almost free, you know, because it's just about understanding what were the issue, and we needed to make some awareness on both pilot side and on both air traffic controller side to better understand when I'm doing this, it's not good for them, because if I'm doing this, it will have an impact on them. And so it's really about better understanding the different constraints of each other to be able to improve at the end of the day. And sometimes the discussion could become too technical. And in this case, what we did within the CEM at Brussels, we decided to organize ad hoc workshop in which we discuss more technical stuff. And here, for instance, in the case I have just mentioned you, to better understand the challenges related to speed and energy management, we did a specific workshop where pilots were giving information to air traffic controller to help them to better understand all the limitations in their cockpit. And it was really interesting, and it's one of the outcomes that could derive from a concrete CEM application. So this is my last slide, and I will finish on this. There are already several countries that have adopted CEM, like in UK, in Manchester. It's one of the most active one, even before Brussels. And you have also other kind of CEM, because I told you, you can manage this platform, this collaborative way of working in the way it fits your priorities and your needs. So in France, for instance, they implemented CEM at national level. So it's not so operational oriented, it's more national discussion oriented, but it's also good as long as we are working all together, as long we can try to increase awareness of each other, and at the end of the day we can improve, meaning mitigating the environmental impact of our operation. So if you are interested in CEM, if you would like us to support you to implement CEM at your airport, don't hesitate to contact me or Sharon Mahoney, who is really the master of CEM, because she is the one who gave me this training back in 2013. So she is really good. So don't hesitate to contact us if you want to implement it. Thank you, and I give the floor back to Alexandra.
Thank you, Marilyn, for this thorough presentation about CEM. Indeed, this working arrangement brings together key stakeholders, and today we will hear from all of them. I would like now to introduce Martina Di Palma, Sustainability Manager at ERA. She will give us the perspective about CEM from this point of view of airlines, talking about the benefits and challenges. Thank you, Martina, you have the floor.
Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you. Well, I'd like to first of all thank the ARC for inviting ERA to today's webinar. ERA represents more than 60 regional airlines that operate in Europe and also include manufacturers, airports, and suppliers. We first of all want to welcome this webinar because it comes in a timely moment as the European aviation sector commits to a cleaner future while also dealing with the recovery from the COVID-19 crisis. At ERA, we believe that CEM is a great working arrangement and approach to optimize operations and also tackle environmental concerns at local level, for example, when it comes to noise issues. And involving the airlines, the local airport, the NSPs, and also the local community can be beneficial in addressing environmental concerns in a swift and coordinated manner. And as already Alexandra and Marilyn have mentioned in their presentations, this approach benefits all the stakeholders involved and also the environment. A couple of ERA airline members have already been implementing CEM, such as ASL Belgium, Air Malta, and also Croatia Airlines. And at ERA, we encourage more airlines to continue to implement CEM. I will now give the floor to my colleagues at ASL Belgium, Nicolas and Laurence, who will give an outline of their experience with CEM and the benefits and challenges that they have been experiencing. So thank you, and I'll give the floor to Nicolas.
Thank you, Martina. Hello, everyone. So my name is Nicolas Simple. I work as a flight ops engineer for ASL Airlines Belgium, and we're going to give you an insight on what is the impact of CEM for an airline in Liège. So I will present it together with Laurence. Sorry, I will take. Okay, so first of all, who is ASL Airlines? In brief, ASL Airlines Belgium is the most important operator in LGG. And furthermore, it's the most historic operator in LGG since we've been based here for 20 years now, previously under the TNT Airways name, but now as ASL Airlines for 4 years now. We are part of the ASL Aviation holding group, which includes in total 9 airlines. You may probably know ASL Ireland, ASL France, ASL Hungary, and ASL Spain. And we have also subsidiaries in South Africa and Thailand, for example. As ASLB, we do provide scheduled, chartered, and ACMI services to our customers. And we have a fleet of about 33 aircraft, of which we have the 26 B737, both classics and NGs. We have 5 long-haul aircraft, being 747 and 2 757. On a yearly basis, we operate about 22,000 flights to 109 destinations. With our own aircraft, and on top of that, we do operate a bit more than 10,000 flights with third-party aircraft, but still under the ASLB call sign. On a yearly basis, again, we do burn that's the negative side of the activities. We do burn approximately 220,000 tons of fuel, which is about 700,000 tons of CO2 on a yearly basis. Of course, we are fully compliant with EU ETS, CORSIA, Swiss ETS, and NOAA's from 2021, the UK ETS scheme. ASL employs about 350 flight crews and 250 ground staff employees, all based in Liège, Belgium. Regarding CEM, ASLB has been a launching partner in LGG Collaborative Environmental Management Program since September 2020. So that was a quick explanation of who is ASLB. So what is the experience of ASLB in terms of CEM before its implementation in Liège Airport? The first insight we had on CEM was an issue we encountered in Stansted Airport. So as you might know, Stansted Airport is one of the UK airports that implemented CEM a few years ago as part of their London airspace management program. And recently, I mean, 1 year ago, we encountered an important issue with the airport, since all of our aircraft were flying out of the noise corridor on the Detling departure, Detling, which is the name of the departure. As a consequence, we were increasing our noise emission, if I could say. We were burning more fuel than what was officially needed, and we were increasing our flight time. So the CEM really helped us to transform this issue into a collaborative discussion where we met with all airport stakeholders, like the airport itself, Stansted, the airlines. So we were not the only airline having such an issue. We also met with the navigation database providers and the local committee of the airport. So we had several discussions together, and we found out that the database processing, depending on the provider of the database, was giving different coordinates for the same waypoints. It was not easy to find it at first, but by discussing with all stakeholders, we managed to find it. So we discussed with those database providers to correct and optimize the flight path of the aircraft in the flight management computer. And basically, we solved this issue. So we came with an improved track flown in average, which means less fuel burn, noise, and time. So as you can see in the pictures on the right, on the top one, we were always flying. So you have different flights that were always out of the corridor. And in the second picture, we are every time in the corridor. So that was a great improvement. And we just received the report for 2020 about this issue. And we have no off-track flights under ASLB call sign in 2020 on this departure. So that was a great improvement. Of course, you might think that it's a small issue, but for us, it was really a first insight on CEM. And as it's written on the slide, the impact is that it was really constructive and non-punitive. So in other airports, we might have been fined for this. We have already received in some airports in Europe fine for noise issues, but in there, in Stansted, it was reconstructive, and it was a nice experience. So that's it for Stansted. Now regarding the collaboration that we had with Liège Airport prior to this implementation. Of course, ASLB is an historical partner of LGG, so I cannot say that we've never worked with them previously. We have had several projects together. As an example, last year we met under the sponsorship of our Director of Operations and the CIO of the airport. We met to launch a web service between the airport and AIRLINES to enhance the data exchange between the two entities. We also met with the fuel farm and with Skies, and we implemented also an operational dashboard, which is now available to all airport stakeholders, where they've part of the shared information, so not, of course, all of it, but yeah, they have access to plenty of information at a glance. And for us, this is really a nice tool since it really enhances the efficiency of our operations. A quick example is that now when pilots come to our crew room at the airline, they've a fully digital crew room with this dashboard available everywhere, and they can see, for example, the estimated block of time that's populated by skies instantaneously. Sorry. That means that pilots can plan their flight preparation more in details, and they've full of information directly available, like they've the fuel uplift that is instantaneously shown on the screen. So as soon as the truck comes to the aircraft to fill up the tanks, the values start to increase on the dashboard. So it's not like the pilot receives the fuel uplift 20 minutes after it has been done because it has to go through fax, telephones, calls, and all those stuff. Now it's automatically sent from the truck to the dashboard. So this is a great improvement, and this shows you the willingness we had to work together with the airport prior to the CEM. Now, what about the implementation of CEM at Liège Airport and its impact for ASLB? So, as Marilyn already explained a bit, CEM in Liège was established in September 2020 with EUROCONTROL as the launching sponsor. The objective of this CEM was to identify the environmental impact of operational constraints and enable a coordinated response that minimizes this impact whilst maximizing the airport current and future performance. The participants of the CEM in Liège Airport are, of course, the airlines. So AIRLINES Belgium, FedEx, which is both a ground handler and an airline, Challenge Airline, Qatar Airways, or British Cargo, the airport itself, the ATM, Skies, the SOWAER, so it's the authority that manages the infrastructure and around the airport, and EUROCONTROL. Until now, 2 meetings have been held, the launching one in September 2020 and the second one in January 2021. Of course, we cannot say that COVID has helped us, since it's really, I would say, it spaced the times between each meeting. So we had only 2 until now, but I'm sure things will go much better once COVID is gone. The CEM in Liège, as Marilyn said, it is really a full scope program. It comes from the operations and goes to the regulation side of the airline operations. So as you can see on the table below, it goes from very technical stuff like APU usage, but it can also go to legislative updates. So it's really, really broad. And this is why we need all stakeholders to be around the table. It's really important. Second important point on CEM is that it's an item by item approach. What I mean by that is that we will not try to solve all issues directly. We go item by item, and I will show you afterwards. We've now started with CDO and reduced engine taxi. The rest will be for later. So it's item by item. Then there is a strong focus on best practices exchange and discussion, supported by an important amount of data analysis. And it follows the principle of pre-analysis, suggestion, action, and feedback. What I mean by that is that usually we have a feedback from Skies, for example, on CDO. So they come with purely statistical analysis. They have the capability to do it. They have plenty of tools to do it. They come to the CEM. They explain what is the current situation on a certain, I would say, issue, even if it's not really an issue, but like CDO. So what is the rate of application in Liège? how is it applied and all those stuff. Then they make suggestion. We as airline, we have, I would say, more operational inputs. And based on this, we take action to like make a survey with our pilots, see how they see the problem and all those stuff. And then we try to implement new stuff. So that's the way it works. And then, of course, we come with a feedback to the authority, to SKAIS, to see how it has worked. I would say it's also a non-punitive way of working. It's collaborative and voluntary, as we saw with Stansted Airport. And it is always proactive. We are always looking for the next meeting, and we always plan something to do for the next meeting. So it's not about discussing and then let's see in 3 months, see you later. We always work constructively and looking forward. Second slide. As I said, for the moment, we've mostly focused on 2 items, which are the CDO and the reduced engine taxi. So for those of you who don't know what is a CDO, it is an aircraft operating technique in which an arriving aircraft descends from an optimal position with minimum thrust and avoid level flight to the greatest extent possible. The objective of such technique is, of course, to save fuel, because you do not have to put power when flying level, to reduce noise, and to optimize the flight path. The CESAR, which is a European initiative, made an analysis, and on an A320, which is similar to the B737 we do operate at ASLB, they came to the conclusion that a saving of 50 kilo per flight was possible in average by doing CDO. And this 50 kilo per flight was leading to a reduction of 157 kilos of CDO per flight. And there is also, of course, a reduction of 1 to 5 decibels per flight in terms of noise. In Liège, what we've seen is that the level of application was pretty low compared to European airports. As you can see on the table on the right side of the page, in Liège, we have 16.5% rate of application. In Brussels, it's a bit higher, but in other major European airports, we are reaching much higher level of application. And the average European level of application is 37.5%. So we are far from it in Liège. So there is a high potential for application. The reasons for it is the ATM constraints. So one important thing when speaking about CDO in Liège is that we have a quite specific location. Liège is a city situated at the corner of the Belgian, German, and Dutch borders. So as soon as an aircraft takeoff or lands in Liège is in another country most of the time. And it's really difficult for the air traffic services to coordinate with each other and promote the application of CDO. So there is really a bigger effort to do in Liège than in other countries. Like in Paris, you are 300 kilometers from each border, so it's much more easy, I would say. Second reason for low application in Liège is maybe the pilot awareness. We at ASLB think we could do more on communication to our crew personally to promote the use of CDO. So maybe why don't they ask more for CDO instead of waiting for the ATC to ask for the pilot to do a CDO on a specific flight. And then, but that's part of the CEM, the lack of collaboration among the airport stakeholders. So we really need to work with the air traffic control, so SKAIS, to try promoting this technique. For ASLB itself, it is an important cost and environmental saving potential, of course. We have on a single fleet, which is our biggest one, the 737 fleet, we have approximately 5,000 flights a year inbound into LGG, which is about 250,000 kilos we could save of fuel per year on a single fleet. Of course, if you speak about a Boeing 747 or even a 757, the amount of fuel that could be saved per aircraft and per flight is much higher than on a 737. So to reach higher level of applications, we would need more coordination with the different stakeholders at the airport and on the Belgian airspace, but also an increased monitoring capability. So that was for the first discussed item. And the second one is the reduced engine taxi operations. The concept of reduced engine taxi is to perform the taxi phase of the flight with one or several engines shut down. And the objectives are to save fuel and reduce noise. Again, in Liège, there is a low application of single engine taxi, I would say reduced engine taxi, and this for all airlines. The reasons for it, and we've discussed it in CEM, is maybe there is no AIP enforcement or recommendation. As an example, in Brussels, there is a note in the AIP encouraging pilots to shut down engines as soon as they have landed or when they are taxiing to the runway for takeoff. On top of that, there is low pilots awareness. So maybe no SOPs into the airlines, no promotion of the subject. And this is a major issue, the cargo aircraft technical capability. When I speak of cargo aircraft, it's mostly the fact that we are using older aircraft, like at ASLB, we are using the B737 Classics. And we are now introducing NG's 737, but we are still operating the Classics. And at first, Boeing was not recommending to do single engine taxi. By the time they've reviewed their position, saying that it was feasible with some remarks on it, but it's feasible. But pilots are still not really confident in the technique. So we should really make them aware of the capability to do it. As I said, again, for ASLB, it is an important cost and environmental saving potential. The books are saying that Boeing 737 burns exactly 12 kilos of fuel each minute on the ground. For 747, it's 48 kilo a minute while taxiing. And we've made for 2018 an analysis where in Liège, a potential reduction of 12% fuel reduction is identified for ASLB on the 737 fleet on the single engine taxi in phase. So when the aircraft lands until it reaches its gate, I would say, they could save up to 12% fuel reduction. And on the single engine taxi off, it is about 23%. So when we speak about single engine taxi, you do not just divide the 12 kilo by 2, which would mean we save 50% of the fuel. No, because there is some requirements. So you need, for example, to have a cool down or warm up time of the engines. And the fact of powering the engine during taxi or shutting it down requires some additional workload that we have to take into account in the analysis. But still, those are very significant numbers that we cannot hide, I would say. So again, to have higher levels of application, we need more coordination and promotion plus additional monitoring capability. And I will now pass the word to my colleague Laurence for the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So less technically speaking and more practically speaking, here are on this diagram the project milestones. So as Nicolas said previously, we have so we are working item by item. So as you can see, the first two, we have identified key stakeholders. We have defined also the CEM working group. So we have met 2 times already. And now item by item, we will go follow up this, this path. So agree on some vision targets. Then we'll identify interdependencies. We will agree on trade-offs so that every stakeholder involved is happy with the solution, fine. And then we find an agreement and then put some targets and then finally implement it. So we'll repeat this, this path every time we will work on a new subject being part of the program. Yeah. Okay, so for the CEM in Liège, here are the overall benefits. So it helps us manage our reputational risk. It can facilitate awareness and understanding of operational interdependencies and business constraints. So by gathering all those stakeholders involved. When those stakeholders are all gathered, we have a platform looking at long-term challenges, and we can develop a strategy to, in order to give a solution to our environmental vision and to find solutions for all those stakeholders. We can also enable sustainable growth and make it benefit for all surrounding communities. And then for the local community, so which is a pretty hot topic in Liège, it will facilitate robust and transparent dialogue and engagement. So then you will ask, why did ASL decide to be involved in this program? So first, ASLB, or the whole ASL group, would be happy to become a leader in sustainable growth of the air cargo transport. We will have, by being involved in this group, we will have access to new resources. So since all those stakeholders share their views, they analysis, as Nicolas said previously, and then we can benefit from each other's expertise and experience. This will have also a high leverage effect. And of course, by implementing all those strategies, technical strategies for a CEM, we can save some costs, of course, because our operations will be way more efficient than it is right now. We will also enhance the representation of our airline. We will improve our public relations because, you know, it's always important to have a face on a name, and that's how things get better, and we are able to build trust and long-term engagement. And also this will improve communication and coordination. However, CEM is a nice program, but there are a lot of challenges. So the first one is, of course, COVID-19 is the trendy topic since 1 year and even more. So it has changed the way of living for the whole world. So we have to deal with it and try to adapt to all those challenges this virus bring to us. We have to comply with all regulations. That hasn't changed. It's not a surprise. For the CRM, it's important to have a coherent project plan that will also meet all stakeholders involved desires, and that will make everyone happy in a few words. It's important also that all stakeholders involved show some ownership so that they can apply the strategies we try to put in place. But when those strategies are put in place, we need also to monitor it in order to see the improvements and to see how we can improve even further. Then this cannot be also denied that those strategies will have an organizational impact for all stakeholders involved. Internally, have to put some campaign in place, some training. You never know, it's very important organizationally speaking. There might be some resistance to change, either in the CEM program itself or internally in all companies. We have to find a good solution for everyone. There might be also some conflict of interest, and of course, the solution and the strategies we try to put in place. It's not the purpose that they jeopardize stakeholders' performance. So it's a lot of constraints to take into account, and I'm sure we'll make it through it. And then, so as Nicolas said before, we have met 2 times, and the next steps are the following. So we'll sign the official working agreement with all stakeholders, and then we'll discuss further. We'll share our knowledge even further as well. Then we'll make some decision making, implement and improve continuously. So if you remember the diagram I showed before, so that's how we do it, item by item. And I think it looks pretty good for Liège Airport and all the stakeholders involved. And we are happy to be part of it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Laurence, as well, Nicola and Martina. Just a comment from my side for the participants. If you have any questions, please do not forget to submit them via the Q&A box. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the event where we will address your questions. So please, we're looking forward for your questions. I think this presentation prepared the field for what's coming next. We will hear the perspective of airports from SOWAER, and Stéphane Cherton, project engineer, will tell us more about their experience with CEM. Thank you, Stéphane, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for the invitation. A lot has been already said about CEM, and I hope this presentation will complement all what has been said up to now. So this presentation will be in 3 parts. So the first part will be a general presentation of the SOWAER and Liège Airport. After, I will explain why we have decided to launch a CEM for Liège Airport, and we will finish by the concrete application of the CEM in Liège. So who is SOWAER, for the one who doesn't know us and Liège Airport? So SOWAER has been created in 2001 by the Walloon government. The Walloon government region is the only shareholder of the SOWAER. We have 5 different missions. Our missions are all articulated around the just balance between the social, the environmental, and the economic development of the airport. So the first mission is the management of the participation in Liège Airport and Charleroi Brussels South Airport. So we are shareholder of Liège Airport and Charleroi Airport, who are running the everyday job on the ground. The second mission is to manage the investment in the airport infrastructure, as we are the owner of the infrastructure. We are the owner of all the ground, the runway, taxiway of Liège Airport and Charleroi Brussels South. So today I will focus mainly on the management of the environmental program that we've in charge. The fourth mission is the management of the economic activity area zone around the airports. And the fifth activity is the airport coordination, the airport promotion through the European and international bodies. So the presentation of Liège Airport Group. So we are the owner of the airport as a SOWAER, but Liège Airport is in charge of the daily management of the airport and of the infrastructure. Liège Airport is also in charge of the marketing of the platform. The safety and the security of the airport is also dealt by Liège Airport in close collaboration with the local authorities. Liège Airport is also in charge of the maintenance of the infrastructure for the everyday maintenance. And Liège Airport is also in charge of the refueling of the aircraft. So why have we decided to put in place a CEM for Liège Airport? CEM is going to help SOWAER for the management of all of our very great environmental program that I'm going to describe in a couple of slides. So all the management of the program is based on 4 different noise areas. This is this is a summary, but you have to keep in mind that all what has been put in place is managed through those different areas, and those noise areas based on LDEN are checked every 3 years. And so we control them. It has already been controlled 4 times up to now, and we are in the process to control it for the 5th time. So within the inside zone, the zone that are the closest to the runway, we give the opportunity to the people to sell the house or to make the soundproofing of their inhabitation on a voluntary basis. So the people are not obliged to sell or to make the soundproofing. It's only on a voluntary basis that it's made. Within those 2 noise areas, we give also the possibility to give grants for tenants to move out. We give also specific compensation for merchants if they feel there is an impact on their activities. Within the blue zone, a little bit more further away, we give the opportunity to the people to make a full soundproofing of their inhabitation. To reach 45 dB within the night rooms and 55 dB maximum noise within the day living rooms. On the more external area, on the deep rim, over there, we give a soundproofing assistance, because usually in the more external area, the level that we want to target for the sound insulation usually for quite a lot of houses is already acceptable. So what is in practical, what I just explained? So in practical, at the end of 2020 around Liège Airport, it's more than 1,600 houses that have been purchased by the SOWAER. It's more than 5,500 houses soundproofed. We have given more than 200 tenants grants and given 56 merchant compensation. So up to now, around Liège Airport, it's more than 7,400 families that have been helped to achieve the sustainability of Liège for a budget of 400,000 million euro. So what are we doing with the houses that we bought? When they are close to the airport, when they will be needed in the future for the development of the airport, the houses are demolished. But a lot of houses can be used for a new project development. And so more than 180 houses have been sold back. And a lot of houses are also rented for the inhabitants. And the price we rent the houses bought is really quite the same as the price of the rented market all around Liège Airport. What are the consequences for Liège Airport of the COVID? We are in charge, SOWAER, of the complaint of the people living close to our airport. The cargo traffic has increased a lot during the COVID. Liège Airport has been one of the airports that had the biggest increase of the number of kilos of freight that has been dealt. Liège Airport has had a big increase due to increase of e-commerce and also due to the choice of WHO base of Liège for the medical equipment for Europe. We have had about 20% of increase of the total quantity of freight in 2020 when we compare it to 2019. But only an increase of 1% of the movement. Why? Because there is a shift from the medium planes to the heavy planes. About what we feel about the complaint around the airport of Liège, there is an increased focus on the quality of life during the pandemic. The number of complaints within the noise area stay quite low, but most of the complaints that we are receiving are coming more outside the noise area. At the moment, last month, it was about 98% of the complaints that we were receiving outside the noise area. But we must also keep in mind that the number of complaints of Liège, when we compare it to the general traffic, is quite low. We only receive about 50 complaints during the month of January, and those 50 complaints are only coming from 10 various inhabitants. So it's kept very low. I have a problem to change. Oh. Okay. So SOWAER has put a lot of noise and has initiated in close collaboration in the past with the other stakeholder, noise and track optimization. So the purpose of the Walloon region is to concentrate the track within the noise area, to use the best techniques in order to minimize the noise, the impact on the environment, the use of new satellite navigation technology, and to try also to use as much as possible the CBO. SOWAER also use a full transparency for the information. So we give access to all our tracks and all the noise around Liège Airport on a real time. And so CEM, we thought, even if we have already done a lot in the past in order to try to manage the noise around our airport, we saw that CEM process could be very useful for the environmental optimization to ensure a sustainable future by enhancing what we have put up to now in the past. So what is the concrete organization and the structure of the CEM? I want to begin again all the previous presentation. So our first meeting has been held on September 2020. All the process has been initiated by Liège Airport. Liège Airport unhappily was not able to present this today due to a very busy agenda. It's why I am making this presentation. CEM who is participating within CEM, so it's Liège Airport who ensure the chair of it. Skies, we also participate in it due to the impact on the environment. So airlines and EUROCONTRol, who was giving us a lot of advice about this. So we wanted since the beginning to have a very focused agenda. So the first meeting we had on the agenda the setting up, the introduction of the CEM concept with the help of EUROCONTROL, and we wanted to start the discussion on two main topics in order not to try to deal with too many items. And to try to focus on what we thought was the most useful. Why have we chosen CDO as why CDO is the main CEM topic at Liège Airport? We wanted to focus on the procedure on which the expected environmental benefits will be the greatest for the noise reduction, but also for the fuel and the CO2 reduction. So as we wanted to focus on this because the benefits expected for the CDO are going to be mainly outside noise areas, where I explain you that we have increased focus. It's not because we are outside the noise area that there is no more noise. And it's over there that we will get the most, I think, of the CDO for the impact of the noise. We wanted to put CDO at the CEM because we had already dealt in the past with this topic. But this is a really complex topic that needs a close collaboration between all the parties, as it's a very, very complex subject. And we wanted to put it in the CEM agenda at the top. Why? Because we think it's going to be a win-win for all the parties and the aviation sustainability. For all the projects, we always must try to find equilibrium between the different interests. But here, I think most of the gain that we will have may be a win-win if we succeed to make this close collaboration with all the stakeholders around that are around CDO. I want to show you on this slide where we can have the most benefits about the CDO. When a plane arrives and when it's aligned on the localizer, so in the final of the approach of Liège, over there, it's already on the glide. And over there, it's no more possible to improve the profile of descent. But it's really before the interception of the glide, usually, that we may have some level off. You see here at the top, a traditional planes profile that could be improved. So the plane goes down and make a long level ups level up before to intercept the glide and go on smoothly up to the runway. So between this last descent step over there, the CDO won't apport benefits. The CDO, where we can have a lot of gain, it's mainly outside the noise area, where we still have the noise, but where the noise is at usually lower level that don't need any soundproof insulation of the houses. When we look at this, when we look at this, you see on the left the landing, the traditional landing of Liège airport, when the wind is coming from the southwest. And here on the right, you see the minor landing procedure when the landing is coming, when the wind is coming from the northeast. So this is only when we have those specific conditions of meteorological condition. We see, I identify all the places, all the areas where we can have a possible noise reduction by using the CDO. So it really shows the large area where we can expect it, and it's really why we have decided to put this on the agenda at the top. So we have had a second meeting at the end of January. We put again the CDO and the reduced engine taxiing over there. As mentioned before, it's not easy at all to make this kind of process CEM with the COVID, with all the people not present physically in a room. But we all hope that we will go back to a normal living within very fast. I won't begin again all what has been said. I wanted only to give some impression of and to explain you what we think from SOWAER to be kept in mind after this second meeting for the future of implementation of CEM and CDO in particular, and with the several workshops that have been held between those two meetings. One of the things is that there is no common understanding of the CDO definition. EUROCONTROL is very useful to have a common way of monitoring and give general advice. A lot of ATM, a lot of airports are using different ways of measuring CDO. And the percentage of CDO that is given does not always measure the benefits of what we feel on the ground. And so EUROCONTROL is very useful to have a common way of and giving advice on way of monitoring. More detailed data about CDO from EUROCONTROL and all parties could help. For instance, it would be very useful. It's going to be very useful for us to focus more on the CDO by runway use, by type of plane, by estimation of potential fuel reduction. And a lot of work is being initiated about it. Another thing to be kept in mind is how to differentiate necessary level of imposed for safety reason from unnecessary ones. At the moment, it's very difficult to monitor. And it won't be possible in the future to make 100% of CDO, but up to which level can we go in the future? And at the moment, when we see a level of, it's impossible to say if it's imposed by security reason or if it could, or if it is necessary. It's very difficult to discriminate this. What's to be kept in mind is that the predictability is very, very important. Skies already encourage the systematic communication of track miles to go to the pilot, but it must be really a communication of two-way that must be put in place in the future. We need to increase awareness of the pilots, of some pilots and some companies of the benefits of the CDO. And new technology of navigation should help to apply CDO thanks to the predictability. We really think in SOWAER that CEM is the place to promote CDO, as it really needs close collaboration between all parties, as this is a very complex matter. And we are really convinced that we could have benefits for all parties. So in summary, we really think CEM process is useful for the environmental optimization to ensure the sustainable future that the aviation needs, especially during this COVID crisis at the moment. Voilà.
Okay. Thank you very much, Stéphane. I think there is a question for you.
Yes.
So how do you calculate CDO statistics, percentage of aircraft actually performing CDO?
This is really the core, one of the core of the things that we are currently discussing within the CEM. There was, we think that what is proposed by EUROCONTROL at the moment, the percentage of the CDO, so from 5 level, I think 75, up to I don't have the number in mind. Marilyn, perhaps you can answer over there. I think it's...
Yeah, indeed. I wanted to intervene.
I think it's from 75 up to 2000 at the moment, what you propose.
In fact, it's free. It's up to the airport. So within the European CDO-CCO task force, we have defined a new indicator for measuring CDO and CCO, and it's an indicator based on time. So we measure the time in level off. So it's not the binary indicator that is commonly used and that is included in the performance scheme, actually, as a monitoring indicator for FP3. So this is the binary indicator, the standard one. Yes or no, you are flying a level off of more than 2.5 nautical miles. If you are flying just one single level off, you are considered as a non-CDO flight. Inside the CDO-CCO task force, and it's the one Stéphane is referring to, we are measuring CDO and CCOs by the time in level off. And so we are able to measure improvement, because when you work within your CEM to improve CDO and CCO performances, you will see a reduction in time in level off. And so then you are able to see the improvement, which is not possible with the current binary standard indicator, because you have to remove all level off. And so for the altitude, it depends. We recommend indeed 7,500 feet for the noise CDO and top of descent for the fuel CDO, meaning since the top of descent. So it really depends, because on some other airport, it will be from 6,000 feet and from some others 7,000 feet. And for Brussels Airport, for instance, it's from 10,000 feet. So it really depends on the airport, and we are free to choose the altitude at which we want to monitor CDO and CCOs. And by the way, all these statistics are available on the AIU portal, so on Eurocontrol website for all airports in Europe. So you can have a look if needed.
Okay, so a follow-up question to the previous one. Then this means that this is based on radar data?
Yes, of course, it's based on radar data. On Eurocontrol side, of course, it's based on CPR data, meaning radar data sampled every 30 seconds.
Okay. We have, yeah, Stephanie wanted to add something?
Yes, over there. So one of the things that come back getting out of the CEM is that the binary good CDO noise or no CDO noise is easy to explain for the outside, but it's perhaps not the best way to measure the real impact of the noise on the ground. I think the best way to have an idea of what is the impact of the noise of CDO on the ground is by calculating the length of the level off, and to make a split level off by level off. For instance, if you decide to measure by a binary indicator the noise, the CDO noise, but if you don't look under 4,000 or 3,000 feet, if you don't look any level off between this, the binary indicator that will come out will have minor will not modelize the benefits that you have really on the ground.
I think this is an important topic. If we want to do improvement, we need to be able to measure improvement, meaning that we need to be able to measure inefficiency. So it's why finding the good metrics and indicator to measure where the inefficiencies are and to be able to monitor when we improve is essential, especially for CEM.
And so we are also developing a new way of monitoring because Eurocontrol has data only 30 seconds. And so we are really looking at other way of monitoring it in order to have more accurate data. And it's why every data is very useful, and data from the company also to make a link between the CDO and what are the gains with the fuel.
Okay, thank you very much to both of you. So since Mallory, you have also taken the floor, maybe another question for you. We have seen that CEM is a great initiative, well perceived by airlines, by airports, by local authorities as well. So the question remains, what's next? What is Eurocontrol doing to expand CEM? Are there any plans?
Yes, so as I said, we would like to update our specification because now there is new challenge that need to be integrated, like the use of sustainable aviation fuel, the drones as well, how to tackle this, because we think that also for drones, we will need a local discussion, and hydrogen, how to introduce hydrogen, because if you remember now, the Destination 2050 report has been published last week, in which there is a kind of roadmap for aviation decarbonization. So as CEM, we try to support this aviation roadmap decarbonization. So every new guidelines or every new subject that needs to be discussed in a collaborative mode should be included in our CEM specification. And of course, we plan more trainings to increase awareness about how CEM could be put in place, how it could help you. And on the other side, what we try to do is to develop new tools and new data to support the CEM. Because as we have mentioned with CDO, for instance, without the data, we are not able to improve because we need to measure inefficiency. So the idea on our side is to provide more and more data to help the airport, the airline, the ANSP to measure their inefficiency, to be able to measure improvement when they implement improvement. So it's all the different dimensions we are working on now.
Okay, thank you very much. If there are no further questions from the audience, and for now I see no other questions, any other comments from the speakers, if you'd like to add anything?
I have just a last comment. So please don't hesitate to contact me or Sharon. You will see her email address on the last slide of my presentation. We are really here to support you, to help you. As I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, it doesn't require a lot of resources. And as it has been said by ISL and by SOWAER, it leads to a lot of very interesting discussion with potential improvement that could be implemented on a short term. And I really like the presentation from Nicolas saying that it's a step-by-step approach. So it's one subject, then another, and so on. Indeed, it's just up to you to choose the list of priority you want to work on. And we can do it simply by just working together and seeing the very difficult context in which we are now. I think it's really the time to implement this kind of solution.
Okay, thank you very much, Marilyn, and thank you very much to our speakers today and to everybody who joined. As I mentioned, the recording of the webinar as well as the presentations will be distributed and published on the ARC website. If you like this event, and I hope you did, ARC is organizing another one on 14 April. It will be on quality of life and the ICAO balanced approach. Check our website and hopefully see you soon. I guess it's safe to say that we can end today's webinar. Thank you again to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra.
Thank you very much.